Hello, bot fans, and welcome to another episode of Red Square, Blue Square, your go-to for BattleBots recap and reaction. And boy, do we have a reaction for you. I'm Richard Tiemann, and this was my carefully thought out bracket that I printed out and filled out. And I even invited, Paul Ventimiglia on a special episode last week to talk about it. And he's like, yeah, it looks good, looks solid, looks great. It is night 2 of the round of 32 and busted. It is officially busted. So crap, I needed this later. Okay, well, we're going to talk about the whole first round. I've got 2 fantastic guests for you. So before we get too far along, John?
Warning, this episode is full of spoilers, so you've been warned.
All right, you heard him, folks. We're back to our regularly scheduled programming here on Red Square, Blue Square. So without further ado, in the Red Square, he's a man who is what they call the Tombstone Killer, but I just know him as the guy with the team and the coolest hand thing that they do before each fight. He is captain of Skorpios, Zach Lytle. Welcome, Zach. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
Good to have you. Took some doing, but I'm glad we're going to have a great discussion tonight. And in the blue square, we have a man who is one of the biggest guests I've ever had. Why? Because he's huge. Jon Schultz, welcome, sir. How are you?
Doing good. Good to be here. My bracket's also busted, and I wore a red shirt in the blue square, but
hey, it's whatever works. You guys are both blue, so I didn't know who to put in what square.
Right.
Oh, but so we didn't do our normal post episode last week because I figured, there's going to be 16 great matchups to talk about, and I wanted to do a special where I invited Paul on because he is still the reigning champion, even though we will crown a new one in just a few episodes. But figured, why not pick a champion's brain, see what he thinks. And I know he knew more than he was letting on, but sure enough, he lets me just go off on this. Oh yeah, I've got what is on my shards of paper here? Oh, number 3, Copperhead winning it all. The number 3 seed. There was 8 of the top 10 that advanced. 8. That's 80% of the top 10. He was number 3, and he couldn't make it out of the first round against the 30th seed Mammoth. And what hurts the most, it was by split decision. It wasn't even a knockout. My bracket crumbled to pieces because of a split decision. One of many split decisions that we've all griped about all season long. But I got 10 out of 16 right, which seems meaningless, but that's BattleBots. Zach, you were on tonight, and you guys went up against a low-seeded Witch Doctor, which I think we can all pretty much agree that the seeds are what you make them. But how did it feel overall looking back at your season? You got that big win over Tombstone, you get in the tournament, you're in the top 10, but not the outcome you probably wanted. So share your thoughts and feelings. The floor is yours.
Well, I've always wanted people to start considering Skorpios a legendary bot. And the only way you get there is you have to beat legends. And I was so excited when they gave me Witch Doctor. I was like, yes! I'm going to beat Tombstone, then I'm going to beat Witch Doctor, and then it's probably going to be Sawblaze after that. At the end of this season, everyone will know Skorpios is a household name. And Witch Doctor proved a little more difficult than I thought. Something people have already been texting me is, why didn't I use the wedges we used in the Hypershock match they saw in the Bounty series? And I actually made those the night after we lost to Witch Doctor, because I was like, my God, if we just put something here to shield the Idler from her blade, this would have saved us. And hindsight is 2020 in the 2020 season.
You guys had a great season. I feel like you were, and I think I tweeted this, that you were gonna say, I'm going to Disneyland after you beat Tombstone. That was like your highlight of the season. It was like you get 3 fights to qualify, but this one, I don't care about any other fight. I'm getting Tombstone, and if we win, we're gonna go celebrate. We're going to Disneyland.
My team was on cloud 9 after that victory. I cannot explain to you. Diana and I were it was a state of euphoria that is impossible to convey, because we had worked so hard. I've been building robots since I was 13. I've always wanted to be on the series and fighting the champion in the big fight. And to have this be a main event, to have this be a returning nut winner, to have someone this respected in the sport who has sent many robots home. He has retired many teams that have never come back. And to have that epic of a match, it really was a dream come true.
I'm just excited that you guys had a moment like that, a moment of euphoria, because when you only have 3 fights, it's going to either be a winning record or a losing one. We talked about it, a few episodes ago, that this was probably the toughest one to put 32 bots, even with 32, into a tournament, because they're either a winning record or a losing. There was no split records that you could be like, well, they're on the bubble, so might as well. But Jon, you were one of those losing record bots.
Speaking of,
perfect segue, right? But your season, very much 3 parts. You had the dream match, as a lot of people refer to it, with Mammoth, and you guys, lost that one, but kind of come out of it, like that was fun, the anticipation was worth it. Let's do it again sometimes, maybe in the tournament. And then you have the Hydra fight, and it's just
it happened.
But then you guys finally get your win. Comes in the last fight of the season against Kraken, who has been very good all season long also, and you could just see the relief lift off you. And now you're in the tournament, and it's against the bot that from the previous season. It's not some crap matchup. It's a really good matchup. People were really excited about this. So your emotions over the 2020 season looking back now?
Mammoth was the fight everyone was waiting for. After the fact, it was we had the offer at the end of the 2019 season to do it as a grudge match. I think that's how Nightmare ended up in the arena, was when we said no, because we were pretty much out of motors. We were burning out motors like every single fight. So after that match, we were like, damn, we should have taken it in 2019, because I feel like that was a would have a chance then. But then after the Hydra fight, we were crushed. Obviously nothing was really broken, so it was just a matter of tuning it and getting it more dialed. And then finally, fighting Kraken was like, they were coming into that fight with a ton of momentum. They just beaten Witch Doctor, so it's like, we're I don't care that they can't reach us. We thought, you take everybody seriously, and so we put the steel top plates on, and then they reached us immediately. And as I'm watching it on fire, I'm like, all right, season's over. Like, there's nothing. We're doomed. It's just, that's how it's going to be. And then, to go from how that fight started to how that fight ended was just complete, like, all right, we have momentum. We're going to make the playoffs, because obviously we had some awesome fights, and Hydra was Hydra, and like the robot's still in good shape. And then to see the matchup with Whiplash, like, we were thinking about that fight if we had it again all year after we lost last year, and it was so close. But my heart sank a little bit. Like, I really wish it had been most anybody else of short stuff that can't reach us, stuff that can't control us like they can. Because like it's I don't think there's a single robot in the field who could ever say they're better than 50-50 with how like configurable and how ready for anything that Whiplash is. And that's, we had the plan going in, we went for the plan, but it sucked to lose that, because we just felt like we were getting some momentum up, and then it was just right back down, and lost to great robots, but we lost. So I think Adam Wrigley's quote tonight about how losing is probably better for the robot overall, because you work a lot harder, I think that's been very true.
Which perfect segue. And also congratulations on a great season. I think you guys, looking back, and how I said it was, very much 3 fights, 3 different parts of emotions in a season for you guys. But
I would say also some of like the Kraken fight and Mammoth fight are 2 of the top 3 fights we've ever had.
Yeah,
like entertaining, the coolest, like amazing fights. So it's not lame. Like, we had good fights. The Whiplash fight was amazing. Like, it did what it set out to do in making great fights.
And I think the committee likes and respects you. You see that in the matchups you guys get that are the qualifying fights leading into the tournament. And then even sometimes who you get seeded against. And so you guys definitely nothing to hang your head about. Very well played season. And yeah, there's a lot of different matchups I would have liked to seen you guys have in the opening round of the tournament.
Definitely.
But you guys have such a great history with Whiplash now. I mean, obviously not wins and losses, but just quality of fight. And I think that's a huge entertainment value for the show as well. And you guys are part of that. But we had a couple of 3-0 bots. Speaking of you learn more from losses than wins, there were 2 3-0 bots that I thought were seated a little low, considering they were 3-0, and actually a third 3-0 now that I think about it, that were eliminated in the first round. So I guess the committee does actually know better than me, and they don't need my opinion at all moving forward. But we'll go down this real quick, and we'll just talk about the first round as a whole. So number 1, Hydra gets the win over Hypershock by knockout. 17 Gigabyte over Malice by knockout. Number 8, Whiplash over Huge by unanimous decision. Number 9, Valkyrie over Sub-Zero by knockout. Number 4, Uppercut over Hijinks by knockout. 20, Ribot over Beta. Was that decision or knockout?
That was very knockout.
That was knockout.
I'm very close with the Ribot team because we're pretty local to each other, and that was like, it was such a cool moment to watch them go further in the playoffs after just missing last year.
Then we had Black Dragon over Slammo by knockout. 21 was Tombstone over Mad Catter. Knockout, another undefeated 3-0 bot out of the top 10, but they are out of the tournament now, thanks to Tombstone, who, I mean, where do you really see Tombstone no matter what their record is, right? I mean, it's just one of those bots that you just, they could be put anywhere, and you're just expecting them to probably win that matchup. But then number 2, Bloodsport over Gruff by split decision. And Tantrum, 18 over Fusion by knockout. Number 7, Sawblaze over Kraken by unanimous decision. That was another great fight by Kraken. 30, Mammoth over my pick for winner, number 3, Copperhead by split decision. Still doesn't feel any better saying it again for the third time. 19, Shatter over Lockjaw by knockout. That's a fight we need to talk about. Endgame over Perfect Phoenix by knockout. Number 22, Rotator over Jackpot. That's the third 3-0 bot that was out of the top 10 that went into the tournament. I picked them to be the upset over Rotator, but now I've learned my lesson. That was a knockout. And then 23, Witch Doctor over Zach's Skorpios by unanimous decision. Like I said, some upsets. 8 of the top 10 have advanced, and there are 2 that have not, but there was a couple of 3-0s that were seeded out of that top 10 that are going home, and other bots moving on. So yeah, tonight, Shatter and Lockjaw. Like, Adam Wrigley has really been impressive with his driving all season long. And I know the sample size, only 3 fights, but how impressive has he been in those now 4 fights? John, let's start with you. Thoughts on Adam Wrigley and Shatter moving on in the tournament?
We're a team that does a lot of research. And so that as part of that, we've watched every fight from every Chinese competition and stuff. And coming into last year, like, we knew what Shatter could do based on how it had performed. And there was some like teething issues and stuff when they got to BattleBots with it. And this year's Shatter is what Shatter can do, and it's a monster. He can keep directly face to you, no matter the angle, no matter where he is in the box. The hammer hits a ton, and it's like their fight with Wanhu last year. They hit it 50-something times. Like, any armor can resist 1, but how about 20, 30? Like, it's... especially tonight, it was brutal. Like, that's the type of stuff where it goes from we need a better Shatter plan to like we need a better Shatter plan.
Yeah, they were really on it. I think I saw fire inside Lockjaw. Zach, did you see fire inside Lockjaw during the fight tonight?
There was definitely fire inside Lockjaw. And unfortunately for him, that's not an uncommon occurrence. Donald Hudson really is a legend. He's been doing this longer than any of the other competitors. And I think one of the things that makes Shatter so hard to drive against is his Omni wheels. He doesn't drive like any other opponent. And I think for a lot of us, that's hard to adapt to. Because when you see someone facing a certain way, you expect 3 moves out of them, forward, left, or right. But Shatter actually has 5. And if you haven't fought Omni-Wheel people, you haven't done it. And you get to learn real fast when you're fighting Shatter. And Lockjaw's robot really is set up for aggression. He's got a great wedge setup. I learned that one the hard way. And that vertical weapon hits like a tank. But I don't think he has much top armor. And his bulletproof glass just didn't last against Shatter's axe. And I don't know, because normally Donald really specializes in changing up and getting ready for a match. But his stuff always has like fancy curves and the Team Mutant Robots aesthetic. And that glass seemed kind of rushed because it was just a square over the top of his robot.
Even though Adam Wrigley had a great, season with the 3 qualifying fights, I feel like tonight was his Skorpios versus Tombstone. Like, this was his defining fight. What do you think about that assessment for Shatter?
I would say that's very true. Like, it is no small feat to beat Donald Hudson. I've tried twice. And I know the judges technically gave it to me at the Vegas event, but I don't think I really won that one.
It was close.
It was really close. I've not seen him go down. I think this year he tried to make the change to brushless motors because he was a max amp mag motor guy all the way. And I think he's struggling to kind of figure out the brushless equation. And that's something Shatter has already mastered. He was trying to run all brushless back in season 4. And he's been working out those issues, and he has it pretty well dialed in. To the point, I think he's pushed his speed controllers to the absolute limit.
It's interesting, hammer bots, because you think of Chomp, you think of Blacksmith, and they all, if you throw Shatter in there now, which I don't know why you wouldn't, they all have one thing in common. And it seems like their peak, like when they hit their stride, they are just a thing of beauty in the battle box. Like they are a bot you don't want to face. They make it look so good when they're out there inflicting damage, and just the concept of having an effective hammer bot. It's like, it's not a vertical or horizontal spinner. It's a bot that has to have the timing just right to come down and try to crack your armor open or whatever it's going to do to you. And so I think that is what we saw tonight with Adam Wrigley and Shatter. And so they are moving on. And let's see this is fun. Okay. We also had Uppercut over Hijinks. Uppercut, so it's not a surprise, but they're one of the younger teams. Last year was their rookie season, and so now they're in the tournament, one of the highest seeds. And I can't wrap my head around just how good this bot is. John, like, how good is Uppercut?
It's like, it's the same robot it was last year in new weapon motors. And like that was the jump from, it's kind of like what I was talking about with Shatter, from like, this is a good robot to like, we're not prepared for this. And we had plans once we saw its first fights. We were changing our strategies in the pits and getting parts and modifying things for in case we had that fight, just because I wasn't ready for that when I walked in the door, that kind of power. And by the time we got there, we wanted to be ready for that. That it's credit to the team, basically, is like, they're a bunch of really smart kids, and you don't know what they can pull out, and what they pulled out was the craziest motors I've ever seen on something like that.
To my understanding, they custom built their weapon motors this year from like the ground up. Something we all struggle with is like, nobody makes a BattleBots motor. Like, we're stealing motors from RC cars, we're getting them from go-karts, we're taking the motors from anywhere we could find them, but nobody really makes the perfect BattleBot motor. And to see them just make a motor from scratch, which is at least what I've heard through the grapevine, and how well it worked, was really impressive.
I can barely wire the damn thing. I have people on the team who do that for me. For them to build motors and build the controllers too, I heard. That's the benefit for it if you've got the skills. So I think that's why they're at BattleBots. That's the type of innovation that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Very good team. I felt bad for Jen. The expression on her face when that knockout happened, I think summed up, everybody, because there was some question marks after the Hydra fight. They're just like, okay, well, like they're still going, but they took some bumps, like some really big bumps from Hydra. And so how do they look now? Are they exposed? Like, is there
Still works.
now? Still works. Yeah. Still works. If you look at 3-0 bots like Mad Catter, Jackpot, I'm not going to say Beta because I feel like their strength of schedule was pretty good, but Mad Catter and Jackpot, they had, 3 wins, but their opponents, I don't really know if this was one of those false advertising kind of situations in BattleBots where it's like, well, they're 3-0, but like, who have they fought? Where, Zach, here, you're Skorpios and you have a win over Tombstone. It's like all you needed was that win to sell the committee on getting in. But, looking at Mad Catter and Jackpot, how important is the strength of your bot that you're fighting, whether it's 3 fights, 4 fights, or however many fights you get?
I think it became a lot more important this season where instead of getting 4 matches to really kind of separate out the competitors, where we only got 3, that became a lot more important in season 5 than it's ever been before.
Yeah, like I think that, with all the debate over if P1 should have gotten into the bracket and stuff like that, that's the type of stuff that a 4th fight solves, because you give P1 someone challenging, and if they go kick ass, P1's in the bracket. And it's so tough. Like, how do you even seed a Tombstone where they beat a brand new rookie robot from a good team, but in their very first fight that they've ever had in the BattleBots, and then lose to 2 amazing robots separately? Like, okay, it's 1 and 2, but it's 1 and 2 with 2 losses against great teams. Like, where do you put that? It's still Tombstone.
And like, look at Rotator, who he had the
Yeah.
Beta controversy, but his weapon never broke. And then he has that amazing Valkyrie fight where I know the back end of the robot eventually gave way, but can I give props for half his robot was torn open and he still was functioning?
Now, one question I'll ask you guys, and Jonathan, we'll start with you. These 3 that were undefeated in the regular season and then are out in the first round, they were not in the top 10. And I bring up that point because I wonder if they would have been in the top 10, and you still don't know who they would have fought, but I feel like there would have been maybe a better chance for them to advance. But like, do you feel it would have made a difference if they would have been seated higher, especially for being undefeated?
I'd say yes. Just because of it, being in the top 10 does mean you're getting the Tombstones and the Huges and the Rotators as the people you're fighting. But that's the other thing that a 4th fight could have solved, because it's like with Death Roll last year. They were 3-0, and Rotator had beaten up Bombshell, really similar shaped robot, and then Death Roll got that challenge fight. Like, you're 3-0. We got Ice Wave when we were 3-0. It was a challenge. And Death Roll and Rotator was the challenge fight when Rotator went out and won that one decisively. It was like, okay, they're 4-0 and they mean business, and they got the seed they deserved.
Well, as someone who was seeded top 10 and got a finalist, I don't think the seeding helps nearly as much as I think, especially in season 5 here, where Tombstone and Witch Doctor are hanging out in the lower ranks. A top seat is almost a problem.
Yeah, you're right. The seedings, they are what they are. I think the ones that you expected to advance for the most part, did. Uppercut, Hydra, Tombstone, if you're just doing the eye test with the names at first. But Rotator and Jackpot, that was a great test for Jackpot to see, just how good of a bot it is. But of course, Rotator, Victor Soto, and his veteran experience, like, that was some great driving in that fight as well. But out of 16 opening round fights, there were 5 by some kind of decision. So a lot of knockouts. And I don't know if I expected that. The first night, there was only like 1 decision, but tonight there was 4 more decisions to add on to that. So I feel like the strength of bot might lean more towards the right side of the bracket than it does the left. But I mean, you guys were on opposite sides. Jonathan, you know, what do you think of the side of the bracket that you were on and everybody who's advanced, and who stands out to you the most?
I mean, in my side of the bracket, the top seeds made it through, Uppercut and Hydra. So those are, I don't think the robots anybody wants to fight. It's there's a lot of powerful teams on my side of the bracket.
I could just imagine the selection committee trying to set this up. And I specifically thought there was something a little fishy when I was looking at the me versus Witch Doctor and Sawblaze versus Kraken, because I was trying to imagine how it plays out. If Sawblaze and I both win, the fans finally get the match they want, which is Skorpios versus Sawblaze, who is the better top attack Saw. I've seen that on the top of a lot of people's most wanted fight list. But then I also imagined if Kraken won and Witch Doctor won, Kraken and Witch Doctor get to redo their main event, but now Witch Doctor has its working weapon. Or what did happen, Sawblaze wins, Witch Doctor wins, then they get to have their epic rematch from, I believe it was quarterfinals of season 4. And I could see they were trying. They were hedging their bets, so they had a story and a story to tell no matter who came in or out of my area.
Which is why I'm surprised they didn't play that same kind of game on John's side, because you were just a few spots away from, if you win against Whiplash or whoever it would have been, if they had done it just a little differently, you would have had a rematch with Hydra, you know, if that's how it would have come out.
They're playing the story games though, so they're a wily bunch who set these so the victor of my fight, which was Whiplash, is fighting the victor of Sub-Zero and Valkyrie. If you remember, Sub-Zero was Huge's first ever fight in the BattleBots, and it was a couple Sub-Zeros ago. It looked a bit more different, but I think that would have been a hell of a rematch, and obviously a totally different Sub-Zero. And Liam and I actually used to work together, so we were coworkers. So there's the connection on that. Is you know, we've designed robots alongside each other before after hours, and then now it would be in the arena, and God knows what would happen, because I mean, Valkyrie's a different monster that I don't want to fight either. Everyone's too good these days.
That is a quote. That is probably the quote of the night. Everyone's too good these days.
They could just slow down. No.
Advancing, you know, we have Hydra, which will take on Gigabyte. Then we have Whiplash versus Valkyrie. Very good fight matchup there. Uppercut versus Ribot. Then Black Dragon versus Tombstone. On the other side, Bloodsport versus Tantrum. Sawblaze versus Witch Doctor. And let's see, we have Mammoth. I was going to skip it, but I can't. Mammoth versus Shatter. And then Endgame versus Rotator. The one matchup that really stands out is Mammoth and Shatter. Like, I don't even know how, in my head, how this plays out whatsoever. Zach, when you look at this fight on paper, like, what's the first thing that stands out to you?
First thing I would want to know if I was Shatter is where are Mammoth's soft spots. I feel like Hypershock revealed that a little bit when they said, please just don't hit that box. And then I don't think Will intentionally hit it, but he hit it, and then it stopped Mammoth. So if I was Shatter, I'd be trying my best to catch that box on the back of Mammoth. If I was Mammoth, I would want Shatter swinging haphazardly, because if he brings it down, it gets stuck in the middle of Mammoth's weapon. Mammoth is like tossing refrigerators. As we've seen when he fought Huge, he has no problem just somersaulting through the arena. And entanglement is kind of his best friend. And so if he can get that hammer somehow stuck in his own weapon, it's going to be just tossing Shatter all over the arena.
I can say from experience that, you know, I do want to hit where the batteries are, but they're about 8 feet away from where he wants to keep me. So unless you can get around the side, that's hard, but Shatter is the robot to get around the side of everybody. I think, you know, going into this matchup is Mammoth is a robot that likes a handle. They like something to grab, and Copperhead was a really hard robot for them to get a grip on. Like, you could see it during the fight. They couldn't really do much more than turn them over. Shatter's a big robot, and Shatter's got the hammer arm to grab, and that's, Mammoth's key to victory if they wanted it. And if the hammer's out there and they can grab it, they can throw him.
It's one of the coolest concept fights as far as we try to think of, okay, all the scenarios. This one has so many, like a spider web of different scenarios. But as far as the best matchups on paper that we will get in the upcoming episodes, we have on the right side Witch Doctor, Sawblaze. Okay, very, very good matchup there. And then Endgame, Rotator. Those are two big fights that I think are contenders for fight of the tournament. But then on the left side of the bracket, you also have Valkyrie and Whiplash, and Black Dragon and Tombstone. So of those four, and maybe I missed one, but John, which one are you most excited to see?
I think Tombstone and Black Dragon is a very underrated matchup in terms of how much weight it's been given on the show so far. Basically, like that's the biggest hitter there is versus the unkillable robot. Basically, like that thing it's a tank, and I think that's just gonna be a hell of a match.
I'm really looking forward to in-game Rotator, mainly because I missed it. I didn't get to see it live. But
I missed all of these. We just checked out. Like after after we lost, we'd been going so hard. We just checked out for a few days, and then we got sucked into a bounty. And I didn't most of these either.
I want to see how Rotator tries to set up for a four-wheel vert, and I've been trying to collect as much information on good ways to fight four-wheel verticals, and I'm very curious to see what Rotator will bring to the table to do that.
So you guys have brought it up a lot, and it was brought up on a previous episode, and I didn't want to, reveal myself to be not as in the know as I like to be with BattleBot stuff. But again, both of you, explain brushless to me like I'm 5, because I hear it, but I don't know what it means.
So the idea is when you have a brushed motor, you have stationary magnets on the outside, and you have copper coils on the middle, and there are these little brushes that touch it, and as the brushes touch those copper coils, they create a magnetic field and push it along. Now, because the inside's rotating and the brush is scraping on the commutator, you don't get full power transmission because as it's scraping along, it'll arc, and eventually the connection doesn't get to be very good. And it's only about 60% electrically efficient. A brushless system inverts the whole idea, where the coils have a full connection and no power loss, and the magnets rotate. And due to the fact that there's no power loss, you just instantly have a 40% more efficient motor or 40% more power. The problem with these is they're incredibly hard to time. It's a mechanical action that times the brushed motor, because as it rotates over, it cogs to the next thing and generates the next field. Brushless motors try to imitate their best guess of when to switch unless they have a sensor. And large-scale sensor motors are finally coming onto the market, which is one of the things you see everyone switching to. And there is a big difference between a sensored brushless system and a sensorless brushless system.
I feel way more educated now toward the end of the episode than I did at the beginning, and that's huge. And Zach, if you were to hack your last name in half, you could be Zach Lai, the science guy, and we could have a whole segment for you and explaining brushless for dummies. But no, it's great to know, because I love the advancement of any sport, but this one especially because of how critical the thinking is, and everything that goes into the design and engineering of a bot to not only last 3 minutes in a fight, but last 3 fights of a season and hopefully beyond. So this is great stuff. Thank you very much for informing me of that. With the remaining bots that are in the tournament, and I know that John, you guys checked out for a little bit, and Zach, you've missed a few fights, so you can't pick yourselves, but we will crown a new champion. Bite Force is not in the competition. He's excited for a new champion when I talked to him last week. So for you guys, and Zach, we'll start with you. Is there a bot that you felt with this remaining field of 16 now, a bot either deserved to win and be crowned champion, or that you just flat out wanted to win and be crowned champion?
Well, it's a little awkward. I'm here with Jonathan because I actually have a lot of respect for Hydra. I
No,
cannot believe
Hydra is still one of my favorite robots that exist. It is so good for the sport that Hydra exists. It is such a cool robot. Like, that is okay.
from the weapon system to the wedge to the armor, like
Everything.
even to their cart. Their cart, if you
Yes.
haven't seen the cart, is the most brilliant thing to save people's backs I've ever seen. I have immense respect for the Waiachi team. They're one of the few rookies that ever won a nut back in the 90 series. And to see that the dad passed it on to the kids and the kids are doing so well in it, I think is a cool tale.
So in my bracket, because we put together brackets as a team, at the beginning of the tournament, we had ended up picking, I believe I picked Sawblaze for the champion. And so Sawblaze was just seeing if you followed the local events at all, like Motorama and stuff up here in the Northeast. I think the 30-pound version of Sawblaze has won 3 out of the last 4 years.
So Jameson Go obviously do, for the ultimate prize, the giant nut, and I will agree with you on that. Jonathan, not to put you on the spot, but Sawblaze versus Skorpios, who do you got in that dream matchup? Sorry, Zach.
I mean, I want to see it too. This is kind of like it's like Huge Mammoth in a little bit, both in that it would be an interesting match, but then if you immediately ran the match again, like a day later, it'd be a completely different match. And I think it'd be the same because like you do Huge Mammoth again, he'd have a totally different strategy. He'd have a different strategy. Like Sawblaze Skorpios, I think Skorpios has the armor, and I think Sawblaze has the wedge. Sorry, Zach. So it would be, I mean, he's got the floppy wedgelets. They're like magic. As far as I know, I don't know how to wedge, but like they seem like magic. So it's really, if Skorpios could get away and get some hits in, I think that you'd have a better chance of disabling components of it. But I also think that getting away and getting hits in is a really tall task against Jameson. So it would be a coin flip. If I had, I don't know if it could even pick one. Like it's just, I really think you could run it 10 times and get not 10 different results, but like 5 results for one, 5 results for the other,
I wanted to see it. I had it picked that way. I was
it's gonna happen.
I want this fight.
The fight card makers, they don't let these questions lie for too long.
No, they don't. They're very good at answering those burning questions early in the season too. Like, come on, really?
Apparently, right off the bat, like. So we're still waiting on our Bite Force rematch from 2018, and all we ever ask is that it's not the first fight of the season.
Well, guys, I want to thank you very much for joining me, folks. That is our episode. That's my bracket, but it's still going to be fun to watch how it all plays out. We've got the 16 now have moved on, and then there will be 8, 4, 2, and then a champion. But it's an interesting season nonetheless. So for those of you that share in bracket bustedness like me, I feel your pain. I really do. And for those that are on the outside looking in, I hope we enjoy the rest of the tournament. But Zach, Jonathan, thank you guys so much for joining me. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so don't forget, only a few new episodes of BattleBots left every Thursday on Discovery at 8/7 Central, which also means, sadly, only a few new episodes of Red Square, Blue Square left, which every Friday whenever we get around to uploading them. So for Zach Lytle of Skorpios and Jon Schultz of Huge, I'm Richard Tiemann. This has been Red Square, Blue Square. We'll see you guys next time.